I have a question for you. Have you ever actually stopped and read this message that randomly appears on your phone in Cyberpunk 2077? Congratulations, you picked the correct number in today's body count lottery. The first time it popped up, I didn't think much of it. You win a free car, there's a bit of marketing attached to it, and then you move on with whatever you were doing. But the more I thought about it, the stranger the name became, and once I started paying attention to it, I realized it showed up in more places than just the message. You can hear people talking about it on the radio, and there are a few data shards that reference it. Admittedly, it isn't everywhere, but it's present often enough that you start piecing together what it actually is. And when you do, it becomes one of the most disturbing background details in the entire game. Because the Body Lotto is exactly what it sounds like. Citizens placing bets on how many bodies will be found in different districts across Night City, and the closest to the real amount is the winner. The dead become statistics, something to speculate on while driving to work or listening to the radio. And the strange part is, it actually makes the city feel more real. Because Night City doesn't stop for violence. The bills still need to be paid, people still need entertainment, life just folds itself around the horror and keeps moving. And I think after a while of enduring systems like these, something else starts happening too. People stop reacting. When death becomes something you can gamble on, wrapped up in promotions and advertisements, it slowly stops feeling exceptional. The violence becomes so constant, so normalized, that it wears down everyone's emotional response to it. And once I started noticing that, I realized that while Cyberpunk 2077 is a game with an interesting story, amazing scenery, and a huge amount of content, it's the tiny background details you were never really meant to focus on that make the game so intriguing. Details that quietly reveal what kind of world Night City actually is. So today I want to take you through 6 of these details that create a story in itself. Some are small, some are genuinely unsettling, and one of them, this one right here, is probably the most disturbing thing I've found in the entire game. But first I wanted to show you something you've walked past 1,000 times. Advertisements. There isn't really a moment in the city where they aren't present. If you're standing still, there's something in front of you. If you're moving, there's something beside you. If you look up, down, across the street, there's always something trying to get your attention. Hell, they're even in the middle of the road. And the longer you spend in it, the less you notice any of it. In psychology, there is this idea called the mere exposure effect. Basically, the more you're exposed to something, the more familiar it becomes. And the more familiar it becomes, the less resistance you feel towards it. Even things you'd normally question or react to start feeling normal just because they're always there. And I think that's what Night City's advertisements are doing. They try to overload you with information in the hopes you will eventually grow to remember and like the corporation's products. And that's where ads like this become interesting. It's a braindance advertisement, and the experience it's selling is not subtle. The imagery is painful, disturbing, and the kind of thing that has a caution sticker plastered on it for a reason. The braindance itself is described as the experience of your own body turning against you. Your implants, your augmentations, the technology you've integrated into your flesh, trying to kill you. That's the product. That's what someone decided to package up, market, and sell on a billboard that sits alongside ads for food and fashion. And what makes it so unsettling isn't just the content, it's the placement. It doesn't interrupt the visual language of the city. It just sits there, another ad, another piece of the environment. Which means that when a city can place something like that beside ordinary customer advertising and nobody blinks an eye, the threshold for what people consider extreme has already shifted so far away that most people can't even tell where it went. So for the people of Night City who see these ads everywhere, every day, it doesn't feel new anymore. The ideas the advertisements feed you feel normal. And this isn't just a video game thing. Walk through Times Squares or Shinjuku in Tokyo and you'll feel a version of it. Every surface covered, every gap filled, screens competing for your attention from every direction. And studies have shown that people who live in these environments long term actually become less responsive to advertising over time. Their brains adapt to the volume by tuning more of it out. The threshold shifts. You need more to feel the same response. And that's what makes Night City feel real rather than imagined. It takes concepts that exist in real life and replicates them in the details you see around you. It creates an atmosphere that feels like a logical endpoint to the world we have today. Night City just kept pushing the threshold higher and higher, until eventually a city full of people who have been so overstimulated for so long that everyday reality no longer holds their attention is created. People who need something darker, something that can actually cut through all the noise, just to feel anything at all. So if we accept that people's emotional response to violence is now extremely muted, what comes next? Well, let me introduce you to gun vending machines. disposable weapons available 24 hours a day on the same street corners as everything else. In Night City, vending machines are extremely common, so common that they replace your kitchen in your apartment. They sell food, medicine, implants, whatever you need, whenever you need it. They are so deeply embedded into daily life that most people don't even think about them anymore. And Night City took that exact same logic and applied it to firearms. Just like the advertisements, the gun machines aren't trying to shock you. They're not positioned as something extreme or dangerous. They sit in the same visual language as everything else the city sells you. Which is exactly the point, because the advertisements spent years calibrating what feels normal, pushing the threshold higher, making the extreme familiar. The gun machines are just the next step on that same escalator. First you normalize the image of violence, then you normalize the purchase of it. And once buying a weapon feels as unremarkable as buying a coffee, something important has been lost that most people in Night City probably can't even name anymore. Because desensitization doesn't happen instantly, it just quietly moves the line. And Night City has been moving that line ever since it was first founded. So when the violence on the street corner doesn't register, when the ad doesn't shock you, and buying a weapon feels like picking up groceries, people start looking for something that actually cuts through. And Night City found a way to sell them exactly that. Out in the Badlands, away from the city, there's a film set, full production setup, lighting rigs, staging equipment, and in the middle of it, there's a massive pool of blood. And honestly, that doesn't sound particularly remarkable at first. Violent movies exist in our world too, but I think that's missing what this location is actually showing us. Because in Night City, entertainment doesn't stop at being watched. People experience huge amounts of media through brain dances. They don't just see what happened, they feel it. The fear, the panic, and the pain. The experience itself becomes the product, because once violence becomes normal and ordinary life stops feeling like enough, the demand for stronger experiences doesn't disappear. It escalates. The threshold keeps moving, and eventually somebody figures out there's money to be made selling experiences intense enough to cut through the numbness. But systems like these don't just create consumers, they also create victims. And that's what makes Evelyn Parker's story so unsettling, because unlike this film set, Evelyn isn't a prop, she's a person. Yet throughout the story, she's repeatedly treated as a product, something valuable for the experiences she can provide to other people through braindance technology. The city doesn't just commodify violence, it commodifies people. And once you start looking at Night City through that lens, some of the advertisements scattered throughout the city start feeling disturbing too. Which brings me back to the foreign body advertisement. The first time you see it plastered on a billboard, it's just disturbing imagery sitting alongside everything else the city sells you. But standing here, looking at a city that builds entire industries around selling experiences, you start to realize what the ad is actually showing you. It's showing you a market that already exists. A city full of people whose emotional threshold has been pushed so high that corporations can sell fear, suffering, and psychological trauma the same way they sell food, fashion, or entertainment. Because once ordinary reality stops feeling like enough, somebody will always find a way to package something stronger. But here's what really unsettled me. Because the BD set shows you what happened to the people still functioning enough to consume, but what about the ones that the system broke? Also in the Badlands is this: bodies strung together by thick wires, the whole network leading back to a single netrunner sitting upright in a leather chair. Next to him is a data shard, the testament of a group called the Children of the Ark. They believed AI gods were coming from beyond the Black Wall, intelligence so far beyond human comprehension that humanity would simply become irrelevant, and their response wasn't to fight or hide it, it was to leave. And I think it's easy to look at this and just see a cult of crazy people. You'd be right, but when you think about what I just discussed, about what years of living in Night City actually does to a person, violence that never stops, the stimulation that never lets up, some people don't go looking for a more extreme experience to fill that void. They go looking for a way out of the experience entirely. And the Children of the Ark found theirs, in the belief that death wasn't an ending, but a departure. That somewhere beyond the Black Wall, beyond the reach of the corporations and the noise and the endless grind, there was something worth going to. Two locations, one selling suffering to people desperately trying to feel something, the other, people who decided there was nothing left worth feeling. And Night City produced both of them. And this is what good world building actually is, not giant lore dumps or pages of backstory, just small details sitting quietly in the background that you would barely look at twice. Details that have no bearing on the story and no real reason to stop and look. But when you do stop, when you actually look at what's there, they create an entirely different picture of the world you've been moving through. one that the main story never quite puts into words, but that was always there underneath it, waiting for someone to notice it. So after all of that, I wanted to show you one more thing. And I'll be honest, this one might feel fairly irrelevant to what I'm currently talking about. In the independent California motel on the outskirts of Night City, you can find two Militech robots sitting around a table playing cards, having what appears to be a genuinely good time. Robots, unsupervised, doing absolutely nothing productive, just existing somewhere the Night City forgot to reach. And I couldn't stop thinking about it, because in a city where humans are treated like machines, augmented to be more productive, worked until they break, valued entirely by their output, the actual machines found a locked room and decided to just exist in it. No brain dances, no stimulation, no product being consumed. Just two robots sitting at a table, present in reality. And that's the irony that this picture paints, that the humans are the ones jacked into experiences, chasing the next sensation, buying violence and intimacy and suffering through a headset, while the robots are the ones playing cards. Night City is built to grind people down. It normalizes the violence, manages the decay, and sells the darkness back to you at a profit. And through these small, seemingly obsolete details, the truth gets told more honestly than any cutscene ever could. Because the main story of Cyberpunk 2077 tells you Night City is broken, but the world building details show you exactly how it got there.